Hi, it's Kim and welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. I'm doing a special evening recording because as I was working on these little orange flowers for the middle of the design, right here, and then right here, I came across something that turned into a bright idea, I guess. I was having a problem, and my problem was I got all of the little pieces done for the flower, and then I started thinking about how was I going to position them onto the actual background fabric. There's 5 petals on each flower, and because of the way they're cut, they don't really overlap each other very much, so you can't sew or baste from one piece onto the other in some cases. The only thing they have in common, they do touch in some places with the petals, but the only thing they have in common is the little orange center of the flower goes on all the pieces. And I was thinking about how this was going to go together and how I was going to be able to transition the flower to the background without having 5 little petals for each flower, because we've got 6 of these flowers, so that's what, 30 little petals we're going to have to deal with. So here I'm thinking, can I baste them with the needle and thread? I don't really have any applique glue, although that would be a great solution, I think. But even then, there's so little of it touching other pieces, would it hold? So I'm thinking, okay, what I do have is I do have some iron-on interfacing, and I'm going to try, and I did, to use this kind of like tape. And what I did was I pulled the pieces off of the design, and then I placed the interfacing tape from one petal to the other one across, making sure that it went through the center, but it did not extend beyond the area for the petal. And then from there, I could place the petal down to catch 2 petals on each piece of tape. Now, there's 5 petals, so that's going to present a little bit of a problem. So then I took, I've got 2 pieces, I've got 1 petal. So then I cut a little piece of tape. What happened to it? It's in my lap. There it is. So I've got 1 piece that just goes from that 1 single petal, and I tried to make it overlap the other pieces. So I've got 3 pieces of the tape down, and then I placed the petals carefully on top, and I did use a little pin to kind of hold them in place like that. Got them all in place, and then I used my little mini iron to be able to get in there and just tap it down until that interfacing grabbed a hold of it and held it in place. So I'm going to do this one here with an overhead camera so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll watch that now. Okay, and here we go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use these little pieces of interfacing tape. And as you can see, they're fairly small. We're going to use those to hook these 5 petals together long enough that we can pin them onto the background and get them appliqued on. So I'm going to start by putting 1 piece, and I'm going to trim that one up just a little bit. Make sure to get the sticky side up. And you see I've got it here so that the tape, the interfacing is within the drawing of the petals. And then I'm going to put a second one on here. Again, it's inside the drawing of the petals. And then we need to hook that 5th petal in. Whoops. They're a little persnickety. Get it a little bit shorter. And this is a little bit longer, so we're going to slide that over so that it's on this petal. Okay, so those are in place, and now what we want to do is put these 5 petals where they need to go. We're going to start with this one, and see, it wants to shift on you just a little bit. So we've got that one. Let's get a pin in there. As they say, stick a pin in it. And then we're going to put this one down. Pin that one. And then I think this one's going to go over here. And then we've got 2 smaller ones. Now, I'll show you one thing too. I don't think this one got trimmed enough. Okay, there we go. Okay, so they're all there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the circle in the center. I don't know that enough of the adhesive is going to come out so that that's going to catch for us, but we'll try it and see. Now, my iron is preheated to the 4 setting, so I'm just going to start here on this one petal. Moved it over just a little bit. I'm not rubbing it back and forth. I pressed it and I'm holding. And I can tell it's beginning to stick a little bit. We can take that one out. I'm going to start taking these pins out and see how well our tape is working. I can tell that centerpiece isn't really on there very well. And we've got just a little bit of a thread. Whoops, oh, we got a little problem there. What did I do? I put it on there the wrong way. So I'm going to peel that off. And we're going to fix that. I think that was the way it was, like that. What we're going to do is we're going to start here. We're going to iron just the little bit right on the end there so we know it sticks. That'll help us handle it a little bit better. And then we're going to slide this here. Put those in place. Oops, we got a little problem. It's showing over here. So how are we going to fix that? Whoops. I think what we're going to do is we're going to trim a little bit off. Funny how it worked perfectly last night, and yet we're having a little bit of difficulty with it tonight. Okay, there we go. It's under there. The fabric is under the orange center. Whoops, and we're going to just see what happens. I was able to pull that interfacing off of the paper, and it did cause it to warp a little bit, the paper. So I think even if I were to put this down in the wrong place with the interfacing, I still would be able to remove it. But I think that's got it done. I would like it a little more if this piece had come further over, but I think that's the one that we were trying to fix it there. So it's not quite as far as I would like. I could put another piece if I didn't feel like it was secure enough, but I think for our purposes it's going to be fine. And you see we've got that nice little flower shape. We've got some leadway if we need to move it a little bit when we go to sew it on, but we've got a nice shape that will be easy to pin into place. And we did that with just a little bit of interfacing. And there we go. That's the way we did it. Got 2 more to go. I've got 3, that made 4 that are finished. So we're well on our way to being finished with this portion and to move on to get more things onto our design. And those will be going in this area of our applique. Just so you can get an idea of what they're going to look like. Let's see. It's probably a little more like that, with some pretty little leaves. These are, I'm just kind of randomly placing these in place. I don't think these are the right places for them, but just to give you a little bit of an idea. That's what's going to be next. So here we have the little flower together, and it has the little pieces of interfacing tape, we're going to call them tape, on the back. Now, it wouldn't be strong enough or sturdy enough or permanent enough that you could just throw this in a container and come back to it 6 months from now and put it on. It probably also wouldn't hold up if you taped it on and then worked on the quilt. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all 6 of these ready, and then I'm going to pin one on at a time. I'm going to mark this where they should be, pin one on, sew it on, then come pin another one on and sew it on. And I think that's going to work great. And as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and that is exactly what happened here. There was a problem without a ready solution. I didn't have the glue that I probably could have used, so I tried to use something in my stash, and I'll just show you. I have a little small piece of this iron-on interfacing, and I just cut little tiny strips. I would say they're 1/4 of an inch or less each, just enough that we're going to get that little adhesive on there to hold them in place. So this is a good tip for you when you need to hook things together without making it permanent. And also, by just having those little tiny strips, and this is a really lightweight interfacing. This isn't something heavy. It's not the featherweight that's like a gossamer piece of material. This is a little bit heavier than that, but those little tiny pieces, it is still very flexible, and you're really, I don't think, going to be able to tell it on the finished product. So my tip for the day, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it solves some problems for you as you are on your journey of applique, and we'll see you next time at the Shamrock Quilt Studio.